Yeah, as you're coming in, continue letting us know in the chat what are the goals you're working on. My name is Aretha Sims, I'm webinar producer here. So glad you are here with us today. We're going to be talking about using Monday.com to track your nonprofit goals. So I'm going to show you how you can engage on the next slide. You're going to get the slide and the recording later today or early in the morning. There's going to be a three-question survey. If you would take the time to fill that out as soon as you close out this window. If you have a question, please put them in the Q&A. I think Alex, he's super good at this. He can take them in the chat too. So we want all your questions to come. You need the closed caption, just tap on the CC button. I'm going to get ready to turn this over to Alexander Jones from Monday.com. Alex, I always learn from you. So take it away. I'm looking forward to this webinar.
Well, thank you very much, Aretha. You're always very generous with your introductions. And thank you very much to the folks at TechSoup for having us today. It's great to be here. And thank you to everybody who's joining us for this session. I know, like Aretha said, everyone out there is busy working in nonprofits, wearing so many hats and tracking probably so many goals. So I really hope that we're able to show you just how easy it is to track some of these things using Monday.com. As you said, any questions you have, please drop them in the chat or the Q&A. I'll do my best to answer them. The Q&A is the preferred place, but yeah, I'll do my best to answer all of your questions. And if I can't answer a question live, I will provide you resources so that you know where you can get support. You're not on this journey alone. So what do we have on the agenda for today? We'll start off, quick introduction, just a few seconds about me, and then I'll take a little bit more time to explain what exactly Monday.com is, if this is completely new to anybody, if you haven't seen our ads on the subway or you don't watch YouTube, and I'll also explain what we offer to nonprofits and how easy it is to take advantage of our free plan for organizations just like yours. The application process takes just a few minutes, and I'll explain exactly how you can do that. Then we'll dive in to look at the best reporting tools that we have in the platform. So we'll start off with something nice and simple, right? Some basics in terms of tracking what you want to get out of a project, for example, maybe some OKRs, something like that. And then we'll start to ramp things up a bit. Look at displaying your data against a set goal, because, you know, as good as it is to say we completed 5 projects, it'll be more impactful, I think, if you're able to say we aimed to raise $20,000 this year and we raised 21, right? That's probably even more impactful. Maybe even more impactful than that, however, is to show comparative data over time. So using that previous example, we raised $20,000 last year, $21,000 this year, and next year we're going to raise 22, right? We're improving, we're getting better. That's wow. And then if we have time, this one is kind of the cherry on top. I think the most impressive data that you could really pull will be comparing what you've got against what everyone else is doing. And I'll explain what I mean by that at the end. But no matter where you're working, no matter what field you're in, there's going to be some kind of publicly available data out there to set a kind of mean, an average. And if you can show that the prison population that you help rehabilitate perform X amount better after going through your course than the average across the whole nation, wow, that to me really shows that you know what you're doing. Your nonprofit is tip top, and for donors, for grants providers, all those kind of things, that's the kind of organization I want to invest my money and time and impact in. So we'll kind of cover the full spectrum today. We'll start off simple, and then we'll scale things up to the kind of more impressive but somewhat more complex things to produce. Nothing here will be impossible, I promise. Great. So let me jump in. Very quick introduction. It's great to meet you all. My name is Alex. I'm in this role for almost 4 years now, actually, at Monday.com. We have lots and lots of customer success managers at Monday.com, all working with big accounts, but I'm the only one working at scale with our non-profit accounts. Most, small accounts at Monday.com don't get somebody to help them out. They just kind of have to figure it out on their own. But I'm here to help the nonprofit sector get the most out of this platform. We have a lot of nonprofits already in our program. Most of them pay absolutely nothing. Small number are paying for a few extra seats or add-ons and that kind of thing. But overall, we have 27,000 active nonprofits. And it's my job to help you and them get as much out of this platform as possible. Occasionally, I do lead more kind of in-depth implementations. You can see some of the kind of big brand names on screen. And a fun fact about me, I don't know how fun, but usually in a group this size, it's always a controversial topic. I cannot stand cilantro or coriander, depending on where you are. It may have a different name, but it still tastes the same disgusting way. I don't know. They say it is some genetic thing. You can debate that in the comments. Maybe you love it, maybe you hate it. For me, no, thank you. Mexican food is a challenge. All right. More interesting than me and my coriander. What is Monday.com, right? If you're joining this without any clue, this slide is just going to give you the basics. If you are already a member of our nonprofit program, though, let us know in the comments what you think of it and how the application process worked for you. In one sentence, Monday.com is a cloud-based software platform where teams can build custom workflows. Now, this might sound a little bit kind of airy-fairy. If you wanted to drill down into that, basically, any kind of work you've got, you can do it in Monday. We have huge multinational corporations, some of the biggest companies in the world run their business on Monday.com. As well as our nonprofit program, we have over 250,000 paying customers. But we also have small, mom and pop, single person nonprofits. And the best thing I think about Monday is that it is so flexible. It's really easy to build out in your own way. And because of that, no matter what you're trying to do, you can pretty much manage it on Monday. And I hope that in today's session, you'll see that firsthand. And my aim today isn't to show you exactly how to build a report to show X and Y and Z. My aim today is to inspire you, to show you how easy it is to go and do some of this on your own, right? To give you the tools and the confidence, as it says, to go out there and build this stuff, because I promise you, it's actually really straightforward. There's lots of resources out there to help you, and it's a fun, easy process, believe it or not. So, that being said, let's take a look at the platform, shall we? Welcome to Monday.com. This is our CRM product. Okay, here you can see up in the top left the product that I'm using. So Monday.com, in fact, has now 4 core products. Till a couple of years ago, all Monday.com made was Monday.com. That's it. But up here in the top right-hand corner, you can see I have 4 products that I can choose from. And on the nonprofit program, I am happy to tell you that you actually get access to each one of these for free. The nonprofit program, by default, gives you 10 free seats on each of these core products. And work management is perfect for managing your projects and your tasks. Monday CRM really was designed for salespeople to convert leads into deals and so on, but it's perfect for managing anything to do with people, basically volunteers, beneficiaries, grant providers, donors. It's perfect in the CRM. These 2 products, I confess, are probably a little bit less relevant for you as a nonprofit, but who knows, maybe it's helpful. Monday Dev is designed for product teams who are building products and want to go in sprints to improve what they're working on. And Monday Service is a ticketing app. The classic example is an IT department in a big company. People submit tickets, they need to be prioritized and allocated and solved. Whether they're relevant or not, I'm not sure. But like I said, 10 free seats on each of these core products. If you need to buy more seats, you get a 70% discount. Sometimes people mishear my accent. I think I'm saying 17. No, 70, which is pretty awesome. And like I said, all of that is at the Pro tier. Pro is our second highest of half a dozen different levels. The Pro tier is very powerful, in terms of what you can do. Managing volunteers, unlimited. Managing donors, unlimited. If you're testing water quality, unlimited. All the stuff that you might already know about Monday, project management, forms, docs, dashboards, all of these things are unlimited on the nonprofit program. There is one tier slightly higher than Pro if it's relevant for some people. Only about 1% of our nonprofits choose to upgrade, but you can do that. It's called Enterprise. You also get a nice discount, 33% on an upgrade. How do you take advantage of all this stuff? Very easy. The folks at TechSoup have very kindly agreed to put a link in the chat, which you can click, take you to a landing page where you can open an account. It takes just 2 or 3 minutes to open your account. Everybody, when they click that link, will get a 2-week free trial, whether you're a nonprofit or not. So after you've created your account, the next step is to visit monday.com/nonprofits. And once you're on our mini site, you will see here our eligibility tab. So once you've got your account, you can come here, click on apply now, and apply to convert that account into our nonprofit program. Again, monday.com/nonprofits, very easy to remember. But the most important thing is to create that account. Once you've done that, you've kind of got your foot in the door, and you don't need to apply within those first 2 weeks. If your trial expires, you forget for a day or two, no problem. Maybe you're already paying for monday.com and you didn't know about the nonprofit program, no problem. You can apply with any different account type, and the whole validation process, also very easy. Just a couple of minutes to fill out the form. We check to see that everything's legit and that you meet these criteria, and then we can switch you over onto the nonprofit program in a flash. Great. So I'll come and take a look at the questions in just a moment, but let's get ourselves started. I can see a lot of action down there in the chat, but let's build out something before we start answering questions, shall we? I've got a couple of things I've prepared earlier, okay? But I also thought it'd be fun to build some things from scratch, because I often find in these kind of training videos, if it's already been prepared, everything just looks perfectly easy and everything works straight away regardless. So I want to build it warts and all and show you how we can get started. So if you are brand new, you can click on the plus here and you can build something out from scratch, okay? I'm going to start off by doing it the most old-fashioned way possible, clicking here on board and building out a new board from scratch. Now, I could use AI to help me build this. I could take a template to help me do this, but no, our very first example, I'm going to manage a project that many nonprofits will manage. I'm going to manage a fundraising gala, okay? I can choose whether the board is main, meaning everyone in my account can see it, private, meaning only the specific people that I invite to see it can see it, or shareable, which means that I can actually invite guests from outside my account to look at it as well. And this is a great hack, by the way, for nonprofits, because guests are free and unlimited on the nonprofit program. Perfect, by the way, for freelancers, volunteers, another great use case here. For now, we'll keep it as main. And what we're going to manage on this board is, let's just keep it as items for now. So again, we're just going to start with a very basic kind of flow here. We start off with 2 groups, and I'll call these preparation and launch. Okay, very, very simple at this stage. I can add more groups if I want to, have maybe like a follow-up group, can change the color of this if necessary, completely free to do what you want here. And then we're going to enter in here the tasks, okay? We need to find guest speaker, we need to book catering, and we need to decide on a venue. Okay, when we launch, we need to give guests parking coupons. We need to display fundraising screen. Okay, it's like on the day, and this is stuff we need to do beforehand. At the moment, it's suggested these 3 columns. A person column, if you want to track progress, this is, I guess, the most basic place to start. Putting somebody's face here, right? These are the people that I've invited to my account, is amazing. It'll definitely help ensure that ownership is very clear. Who's going to book the catering? Well, that's on Sarah. Her face tells me that and tells her that as well. The status here can, of course, be customized. Almost everything you see here can be customized. So if you have very specific statuses for your organization, like, maybe you've got your boss involved waiting for Tiffany's approval, that can be a status on Monday. Okay, you're not confined to the generic statuses there. Now, as these tasks are completed, what we can do is by coming up here to the plus, we can add different views to see how this stuff is tracking. So if I was to add, for example, a Gantt chart, you will see the exact same information instantly displayed in a really easy way to understand for project management, okay? Any of these views that I add along the top here, you can see there are dozens you can choose from, are just a different interpretation of the same information. So if I was to move deciding on the venue back a couple of days to September the 12th, and let's just leave it at that for now, deciding on the venue to September the 12th, you'll see that this has actually changed the date here. It is the same information. So you're never going to run into these issues of, you know, 2 bits of information being different in different places, right? That's what we want to avoid. This is an easy source of truth. These Gantt charts, for example, can also be customized very easily. Come here to the settings, and you can choose how it's going to display. So we can group them by, for example, the groups that we have in our board, preparation and launch, or maybe by the owner, right? My tasks, Sarah's tasks, and the unassigned tasks. We also have the option to label them, maybe just the name of the task would probably make sense, and we can color them maybe by the status as well. Now, at the moment, I don't see anything. Let's zoom out a bit to months. I think we're in the wrong time of year. Here we go. There are our tasks, so you can see them plotted out here in a Gantt chart, okay? Maybe booking the catering, I would say probably needs to come back a bit, right? That doesn't make sense that it's so close to the launch date. And you can visually arrange it this way. Now, a Gantt chart is just one of many different views you can have. If you prefer a Kanban or a calendar or a timeline, they all work in roughly the same way. One other example I want to show you here is a chart, okay? And again, we're starting off with a really basic measurement, but this could be very useful if you are just getting started and you want to be able to see things in a kind of bird's eye view. Here, it's not too hard to understand how we're tracking, right? We can see how many statuses are marked in different ways. But if you ended up with tens or hundreds, thousands even, we can have up to 10,000 items on this board. It might get very confusing very quickly. So displaying it here in a chart like this, super straightforward. Again, remember, this is live. This is the same data. So if something was to change here, it will change in the chart instantly without me doing anything. Now, I didn't have to set this up, right? I just clicked on chart and added it, and here it was displayed for me. But if I come to the 3 dots and settings, I can change how that looks. There's many different chart types I can choose from. A pie chart, for example, may be a better way of telling your story. I'm not sure, up to you. If you do go with the bar chart, then you have 2 axes, right? The X along the bottom and the Y along the side. You can choose any one of the fields that you have to be in the X axis. These are all the fields that we have in our board. So for example, the person, this shows how many tasks are assigned to each person. Or group shows how many tasks are in each group. The Y-axis is currently showing a simple count of the items. 3 tasks are in prep, 2 tasks are in launch. But if I had other numeric value here, and again, this board is very easy to customize, so I can add, for example, a number column, and I can call this column budget, or even, you know what, let's say expenses. I can put in here the numbers. Okay, we've got $3,000 for a guest speaker, catering $8,000, the venue $10,000. We're really doing well. I'm going to add here the currency that I want. And now in my chart, if I return to the settings, I am able to, instead of displaying just the number of items, I can display how much I'm spending on each of these groups. How much we're spending in prep versus launch, or how much we're spending in prep versus launch. Sorry, how much we're spending by person, right? So Sarah's in charge of $8,000 worth of budget. I'm in charge of $3,000 worth of budget. You can also remove, here, the count of the items if you want to. And of course, you can customize these by changing colors and labels and all that kind of stuff. So adding a simple chart or different views to a project like this, really easy. And if you want to be able to keep track of things, this is, I think, the most basic way to begin. And one more point I'll make on this board before we move on to something a little bit more sophisticated is the communication in Monday, right? If you want to stay on top of communication, every single item has there the update section. And this is where you can communicate with people, okay? A general statement like this is a really important part of the process for us, team. Let's nail it. Okay, I can add an update here that everyone else can read. You can see that there's a number 1 here. It means someone's added a comment here. And if I want to specifically call someone out, tag them, I can use the @ key. For example, Sarah. And do you think your old friend Leonardo DiCaprio would be available next month? Okay, now Sarah's going to get a communication inside Monday, a notification telling her that there's a comment she needs to respond to. And again, it's very clear who wrote it, when they wrote it. People can see it, reply to it. Of course, if you want to make this stuff private, you can do, as we saw before. You can make your entire board private, like so, just coming to the board and changing its status. Even, by the way, we can make specific columns hidden if we need to. The budget, for example, the final expenses, we may want to restrict who can view that sensitive information. The whole team is collaborating, but just this one, I only want me and Sarah, let's say, to be able to see this column. So you have complete control of who can see what, but by default, everything is open, which is a great way to work. And it means that if I get sick before the big event or Sarah moves on to a new organization, then other people can come in here, see the flow of information, and we're not kind of taking that institutional knowledge with us, which is really, really important. Okay, great. So that's 15 minutes or so on the most simple way of doing things. Let's now build a slightly more sophisticated board. I'll come in here to boards, and this time I'm going to build an OKR board. Okay, I'm going to this time use AI to build this board for me. Okay, I run a small non-profit, and I want a board to manage my OKRs. Please create 4 of them with, let's go 4 of them. You know what? Let's leave it at that. We'll see what the AI creates for us today. AI is an amazing addition to Monday.com. It's kind of found its way into almost everything that the platform does. Of course, you're not obliged to use it if you don't want to for any reason. You can simply manage Monday the old-fashioned way, but it can be a massive, massive time saver. And I think there's no risk of AI kind of taking your job. I know that sometimes is something people worry about, but what AI can do here is save you just so much time. You know, look at this, getting ideas, planning things out. Here you can see the AI is running AI itself. Okay, this is an AI-powered column. It's assessing the priority based on this information, and it's going to assign here high, medium, low, or critical priority on its own, which is pretty neat. Of course, if you do build with AI, you can still make changes. You know, if you don't like some of these layouts or columns, all those custom features that we saw before still exist. You can add a column, you can delete a column. You're not obliged to use any of this stuff if you don't want to. So if you're tracking, maybe I should actually rewind. What is OKR? OKR is objective and key result. So you may have high level objective and then key results below that for things you want to achieve. And here's some examples. Improve internal operations efficiency, enhance community engagement, increase social media, and annual fundraising revenue. And we've set very specific measurable goals here. Now, what you could do is every time you run a project, you could actually connect this board to the project board to see how you are progressing. What I might do actually just to make it even simpler is remove this group. Not sure I like what the AI has done there. And you can see here it's recording a completion percentage. Okay, this is something which we would be entering in here manually. And we won't want to try and avoid that kind of thing. Instead, let's imagine we have a task management board. Create another blank board here. And I want to track which of these tasks contributes to each of my OKRs. So here I could say, launch fundraising gala. Okay, this is obviously going to contribute to that increased funds OKR. So what I can do is I can connect here using the connect board column, this task to our OKR board. Okay, you can see here all the boards in my account that I can connect it to. Very simple though, because it's displayed this one first. It knows that that's the most likely one I'm going to need. I'll make it a two-way connection so I can see that in both places. And now I can connect this item, launching the fundraising gala, to the item in the OKR board called increase annual fundraising revenue by 20%. Now, because I made it a two-way connection, I can see not only on my task board that this specific task is contributing to this OKR, but in my OKR board, I can see that this OKR has this task contributing towards it. If I wanted to take things to the next level, I could also put in here, for example, how much time we've spent on this task. Okay, I'll keep it simple for now. I'm just going to put in an estimate. You could, of course, track this more formally, but let's imagine we spent 10 hours on this task. On the OKR board now, if I wanted to see that information, right, in this column, I'm only seeing the name of the task. What I could do is I could add a mirror column. Okay? Mirror columns, connect board columns, they often go hand in hand. And with the mirror column connected to my connect board column, I can then choose to see any other value that I want. For example, the estimated time spent on this task. And I want to see that summed up. So I can see that so far we have spent 10 hours on pursuing this objective. If I added another task here, and I connect it to that same OKR, following so far, and add here 20 hours, what number do you expect to see on the OKR page? Drum roll, please. 30 hours. And I gave a very simple example here, estimated time spent. But you could do something a lot more sophisticated here, actually showing the progress. For example, how much money you've raised, coming up and up and up. Or again, the percentage of how far you've completed, right? This is just a nice simple example, but the ability to have, for example, OKRs or any other kind of goals, KPIs, you can kind of call them how you want to. They all amount to the same thing. You can have them listed on one board, and then you can have the things you're doing, the projects you're leading, the tasks you're completing connected to these boards, and you can then pull in certain bits of information to show things as they progress. Great. So we saw a couple of boards that we built ourselves. We saw a board that was created by AI. And now I'm going to show you a board which I downloaded as a template. This is a volunteer management solution, which came from mondayspaces.com. Monday Spaces is very similar to the Template Center. Here is the Template Center. That's where I got the next one we'll look at, donor management from. Monday Spaces, though, is an external website, mondayspaces.com, where anybody can build their own templates. So I got this one from there for managing volunteers. And you can see that the template comes with all these different elements inside it. And I'm not going to go into the details of how you manage volunteers on monday.com. Of course, if you would like to, I do have a dedicated course for free for nonprofits where you can explore managing volunteers. You're welcome to join me once you've opened your account. But if we come down, for example, to our volunteer feedback form, you can see some results that I've already prepared. We have a form, again, free and unlimited on monday.com. You can build these forms which can be shared externally. So anybody can fill this stuff out. Whenever you're building a form like this and you want to be able to track progress or impact, then I think having a combination of numeric, like these star values, and written answers is ideal, because then you'll be able to map that information in really interesting ways. For example, here, in these results tabs, just the same way that I added them before by clicking here on adding a widget, I added here charts. you can track, for example, the average score of all of your volunteers. We can see here that we're doing pretty well in how likely we are to recommend, not too bad in the overall experience, but these two scores here, the fulfillment and the likelihood of volunteering again, they're a little bit lower. Maybe we need to, put in some effort here to increase these numbers. You can also see the average overall rating per volunteer, right? This could be very impactful. You could then, I don't know, maybe give Rosalind the best work or maybe the most challenging work, and maybe, give Louis a call and check what's going on with him, why he's finding it so frustrating. And then we get some number widgets here to see how things are tracking across time. What I think is more interesting is, like I said, showing progress over time. This to me, let's make this full screen. This to me shows that we're learning from mistakes and we're getting better. And if I'm a donor, an investor, someone offering you grants, even a volunteer, this is the kind of thing I want to see. No one's perfect. And when you start out, everyone knows you're going to have issues. But if I look at this graph, I can see that Nikola Tesla each year has submitted feedback. And apart from one little dip, he's found his experience getting better and better and better. And we can track that over time through feedback forms. We had Nikola fill out this form once a year. You can automate sending this by email to Nikola, and then the answers live in this board. And you can see how many have been filled out by Nikola. Every year we have one coming in from him. And in this results tab, I've turned on a filter. So I'm saying I only want to see volunteer responses where the name is Nikola Tesla. And it's taking away all the others, and it's just displaying this one person. And you could build one of these for every one of your volunteers if you wanted to, right? You can keep on going and going here, adding more and more of these. Now, one other thing I'll add at this point is you also want to think about the story you're trying to tell. And I'm not talking here about faking data or, manipulating data. That's obviously not what we want to do. But instead, what I want to show is the impact that we're having in as meaningful and compelling a way as possible. The way that this chart is designed is long and thin. So it makes it look like sort of slow, steady progress. With a very simple change, boom. Now I can see Nikola's blue line looking much sharper. I haven't changed anything here. I haven't doctored the numbers, but this to me looks a lot more compelling. I can see here that Nikola is going up. What I've also done here is I've added more than one volunteer. Okay, you could show multiple volunteers on the same board. So you can see, again, a really compelling argument. James and Nikola have both generally gone up. Both had a few little dips, but the sky is the limit, right? They're going up to 5, which is our maximum score. You could put in all of your volunteers here if you wanted to. Just think about the story you're trying to tell, the narrative you're trying to build, and design the reports and the dashboards around that. Now, what we've got here in this results tab is great so far, but all it's looking at is information in this one board. And that's kind of limiting, because what if you also wanted to pull in information from the amount of work your volunteers have done? Okay, you're not going to track that in the same board, but there's no problem to bring that information in. As I said before, in the nonprofit program, you have an unlimited number of boards. So you can have one for managing their work, one for managing their feedback, and so on. And then if you want to see the results from both of those in the same place, one option is to use a dashboard. Dashboards are amazing. You can see that this dashboard in the template already comes connected to 3 other boards, but it's very easy to connect more. Simply click on the button and you can choose other boards to pull in as well. Now each of these widgets, as they're called, can pull information in from multiple places. Whether you've got volunteers in site A and volunteers in site B, they could both be connected to the same volunteer dashboard, and you could see then a nice overview of what's going on. Amazing. So the next type of template, as I said, came from the Template Center. All of these templates, free and unlimited. You're probably going to get sick of me saying that. But in the Template Center, you will find as well a donor management template. Again, I'm not going to run through all the nitty-gritty details of managing donors and donations on Monday.com. Guess what, though? If you are interested in that, I do run free courses for nonprofits on donor management. What I am going to focus on, though, is, of course, the donors dashboard. This is how the dashboard comes straight out of the box. This is how it looks in our template. But we can improve it, and I want to show you a couple of ways that we could do that. For example, this widget here, the fundraising tracker, isn't bad, but it's limited to 500 items. I also think it doesn't look that great. I think it's a bit ugly. And I'm here to tell you that there is another widget that is great for tracking progress, which again, most paying customers have to pay extra for because it's exclusive to Monday CRM. However, on the nonprofit program, you get access to each of these products for free. So if you come down here, we can add a new widget, for example, the Gauge widget. This is perfect for tracking our progress. I can call it whatever I want, our fundraising goal. And then in the 3 dots and settings, I can define, first of all, how I want it to look, line or radial. Personally, I like this one. I can then set the actual value, call it, again, whatever I want. This could be, dollars raised to date, and it will change the value here. And then where this is pulling from can also be defined by me. At the moment, it's pulling from our donors board, our donors activities board, and our donations board, which is actually not correct. It shouldn't be pulling anything from the donors or donors activities boards. So I can choose which boards I want to see reflected here. I am not obliged to use every bit of information in every widget. I have ultimate control. So in this case, I only want to see information from the donations board. I'm not disconnecting. I'm not disconnecting my other boards from this overall dashboard. Other widgets, other charts could still be looking at multiple things. But in this specific widget, I'm only looking at information from the donations board. Which specific information am I looking at? I'm looking at the donation amount. That's the only relevant value that exists on this board. I can then also set the target value to whatever I want. Also give it a name, amount needed to build the hospital or whatever it is that your nonprofit is raising for. And you can set the value as you need. If you want to see how it looks when it's completed, you can just drop the goal down there. So this is a great widget, and it's one which isn't immediately available in the template, but it's easy to add, and I want to show you just how kind of quickly you can improve things by adding your own custom changes to these kind of templates. Another great addition to any of these kind of widgets, let's take this one as an example, would be to add a benchmark line. Remember I said it's one thing to say we wanted to complete 5 projects and we completed 4. Sorry, it's one thing to say we completed 5 projects. It's another thing to say we set a goal of 4 projects and we actually completed 5. If you can show that that goal is something you've been working towards over the last year, that's more impactful than just here's what we did. So setting these kind of goals is, I think, very valuable and really can be leveraged to help grow and improve the work your nonprofit's doing. So how do you do it? On a chart like this, we could add here a benchmark line with any value that we want. So for example, in 2020 fundraising goal, we were hoping to raise $1,000. We were a small organization. Oh, sorry, I put that in the wrong place. $1,000 in the number value, 2020 fundraising goal. You can see the red line appears here. But I can add more. I can add another line for our 2021 fundraising goal. Could be in any color that I want. And this time we were hoping to raise $6,000. Okay, we didn't quite make our goal. And then in 2023, our goal was to reach $10,000 and we smashed it. We over raised by $1,500. And you can put in here the labels that you want. Like so. These could all have different colors if it's easier to visualize them. And then these reports, these charts and widgets, once you've got them, there's several options that you can use to share these things. Any one of these, I'll go with the most old-fashioned way first, can be exported. Just clicked on the three dots. You can take it out of here as an image or PDF. Super simple. But better than that is to actually have someone look at the real live data. I know that's not always possible, right? If you're submitting a grant application, you may not be able to share a live link with somebody or invite them into your Monday account. But a couple of good points to note, as well as the 10 free users, the 70% discount, and the unlimited number of free guests, you also have an unlimited number of free viewers. So people can come and look at this stuff. Maybe your board members, they aren't working with you every single day, but they want to be able to keep an eye on things. They could look at this without taking one of your full seats. Another really nice option is to export the whole thing, either as a PDF or one of my favorite new features is to schedule the export. It's not quite live, but it's the next best thing. If you've got a big board meeting, 9 a.m. Monday morning, and you want to get the most up-to-date data in their inboxes, you don't want to print off the report on Friday night, almost 3 days beforehand, when there might be plenty of donors giving money over the weekend and showing them incomplete data. So instead, you can come here to schedule PDF report, and this stuff can be sent out on a regular or one-off basis. So it will take the whole report, not just one, the whole report that you've got here, turn it into a PDF, and you can then customize how the email looks, our latest numbers, dear board members, please find attached, etc., etc. You can send exactly when you want to, and you can even just play with the layout a little bit of how the PDF should look, and then schedule it to go out at a certain time that is required. So all of this to say, these charts and reports and dashboards aren't just for internal use. They might be very helpful for you and your team, but you can also share them with people, like I said, donors, grant providers, board members, anyone who needs to see this stuff and can't get into Monday. There are ways of doing it. Amazing. So the last little cherry on top that I wanted to show you was to compare the data against a mean. But what I think we might do, because I can see so many questions, is actually save that for the very end. Also a little hook to keep everyone engaged. And I'll see if I can answer a couple of questions beforehand, and then we'll go and look at this one before we wrap things up at the hour mark. So again, I apologize in advance if we can't get to everybody's questions. I'm going to start over here in the Q&A, and I'll do my very best to get through as many as I can. Okay, great. So Ranjan was asking about other ways to expand beyond the 10 free seats. Yes, as we said, guests and viewers are both free. That's a great way if you can't afford more seats, even with the discount. Another nice option, if you need to share certain information, for example, maybe the volunteer work allocation, okay? You want to share this with people, but you don't have the money to bring them in as full members. Here's all the work that is available, but I can create a new view which filters out the unavailable work. And then on these three dots, I can share this publicly, right? You get a link or an embedded code, which can then live in your website, so people can see the live up-to-date information in your Monday account without needing to actually be invited here. This is a link that anybody could view. So that's another good tip for you there. But yeah, love that question. Always trying to be frugal for my nonprofit friends. To compare Monday.com with other products, so someone here is asking about Asana. I honestly can't. I haven't worked in great depth with Asana, but I'm sure that, yeah, if you search online for that, there's plenty of people who have compared it, who've got a lot more experience in it than me. So I think I'll leave that to them. What's the difference between Monday CRM and Monday's work management products? So they're both built on the same core. Everything we've seen today is Monday CRM, and most of what you've seen today would also work on Monday's work management. The difference really is around some extra features. So for example, being able to track mass emails. This also answers another question about putting out newsletters or having an email list, for example. You can only track emails that you're sending using the CRM. You can only have quotes and invoices on Monday's CRM. And there's also some really cool outreach tools, which are only available on Monday CRM. If, for example, I want to speak to some of my volunteers, and I click here on the update section, here in the plus, oh no, it's already here. Here down below, I have emails and activities, which allows me to send emails from right here in the item card. And that's something which is also available only on Monday CRM. So there are a few pretty important features which are unique to each of the products. Again, you have them both for free, so you're good there. And I wouldn't probably worry about that too much. I would say if you've got people in your boards of any kind, put them in the CRM. If you've got projects, tasks, put them in work management. But it's really easy to change your mind about that. You know, if you feel like actually this water quality stuff would suit better if I move it over here to a different product, click of a button and it moves over there. So super easy to do. Thanks for these questions, my friends. This is great. Okay, another question here. Do I need to hire an IT specialist? We would want the data to propagate Monday from forms submitted on our website. Okay, someone's already using N8N and webhooks. Amazing. So yes, I think this is something which anyone with, basic IT computer skills should be able to set up. Like I said, most people who work on Monday.com built their workflows themselves. But this is a good place to talk about other options, right? If you do feel like you need a bit more support, what is available to you? So the first place to come is up here, click on the question mark. If you come here to support and learn, you can find hundreds of articles, videos, all sorts of guides to help you with stuff. I've seen a couple of people asking about bringing in data from other sources. Yes, you can import into Monday from Excel, from many other project management software. If you need extra help with that, come and check out the guide. But my favorite feature is the ability to chat 24/7 for free, either with an AI-powered bot, which is honestly the best informed, better than most humans can possibly be informed because it has access to all the most up-to-date information that's ever been published. Or I can ask here, I want to speak to a human, escalate to a person at any time. And on the nonprofit program, you're not restricted by using this. You can access this feature for free 24 hours a day, every day of the year. It's amazing. Like if you do get stuck, I use this, right? I can't figure out how to do something. It's an amazing tool to help me find answers. We do also have resources unique for nonprofits. So we're back on that same page we began on monday.com/nonprofits. And here you can visit the Resource Center. One of the things that I'm providing are drop-in kind of office hours where you can just pop in and ask a quick question that maybe the bot couldn't answer or our support team couldn't answer. I offer these academy courses where you have specific nonprofit topics. I mentioned donors and volunteers today. And if you do need an IT specialist, sometimes you've got complex workflows. You do have the option of choosing from a certified Monday partner. And we're very happy to announce we just negotiated a flat rate 20% discount for anyone who's advertising in our partner directory. So there's kind of a full spectrum of support. build it completely on your own, get a bit of free support from us, join me in some free courses, or pay for something a bit more meaty. And it's completely up to you, where you feel you need to go. Okay, Jessica has a good question about receiving donations in Monday. And the short answer to that, Jessica, is no. You can't kind of use Monday as a terminal, right? We can't swipe credit cards in our forms, for example. However, what Monday can do, and this does also come up a couple of times in the Q&A, is integrate with other types of software. So if you see here, the integration button, you can see dozens and dozens of integrations that we've already built for you. And mostly what you'll see here are the biggest softwares in the world. The Gmails, the Outlooks, the Slacks of this world. If you are interested in using Monday to process donations, you could try, for example, Stripe, one of the biggest payment processing apps out there. And this is available to you for free. Now, Stripe have their own terms, conditions, charges, etc. So you need to ask Stripe about how much it costs and what they do with your data and so on. But integrating it with Monday so that when a donation arrives in Stripe, it comes to Monday, that's completely free to add. And as well as these, however many there are there, 20, 30 or so integrations that are available for free, we also have here an app marketplace. Now, these ones are not provided by Monday. They're not necessarily for free, but they can do some really cool things. Software developers have built these little add-ons. Some of them are free. Some of them have non-profit programs, which can do cool stuff to connect Monday to other software. One that's very relevant for nonprofits would be GiveButter. This is another great donation processing app, which allows you to connect your donations that are coming in into Monday. And there's so many here. I couldn't name, there's like literally thousands of them. So I couldn't name them all. But if you're wondering if yours exists, you can always just come in here and search. If yours doesn't exist, don't panic, because Monday has an open API. So there are third-party software, things like Zapier and Make, which can connect two software together. So as long as this other third-party software that you're hoping to use has an open API as well, you'll be able to use these third-party tools to bring information in. And of course, we can always use the old-fashioned way, uploading data from a spreadsheet is pretty easy to do as well. Okay, a couple of questions about AI. Are there guardrails? Can you turn it off? Yes, yes, and yes. You can turn it off for specific people. You can turn it off for your whole account. We don't use our AI, or rather your AI answers, to train models. It's completely private. Your AI data is the same as any other data in Monday. That's to say, it's yours and yours only. We don't even get to see your data. Like if I log into our backend system to see like high-end sort of analytics and statistics about how active your account is, I can't see your boards. If you enter donor information, only you and your team can see that. So yeah, you don't need to worry about that at all. We have a lot of people trusting us with pretty sensitive data, and data security is top priority. And that's the same case for AI as well. If anyone has like very specific questions about where your data is stored, or what models are being used, you can find answers to those things for sure here in the chat. They'll definitely have the resources there. Okay, let me see if there's any last question that's super interesting. I know there's plenty which won't be answered today. I do apologize, but I can see that most of these have kind of touched in some place or another. Let's see. Okay, this is a common one. I've registered for Monday, but it said I would have a 14-day free trial. Will it then just become free? That comes from Angela. How you doing, Angela? So like I said at the very beginning, there's a two-step process. Create your account and then apply to join the nonprofit program. There is a difference between the free trial, which you get for 14 days, and the nonprofit program, which is free forever. So first, click the link that the wonderful people from TechSoup will share with you. Second, apply to join the nonprofit program at our eligibility tab. The only reason I bring this up again is because sometimes when you try a different product, it'll also say start 14-day free trial. But if you're on the nonprofit program, you can safely ignore that. The system sometimes doesn't understand that although you're not paying anything, you are past your free trial. So if it does say 14-day trial on Theorem and you're on the nonprofit program, don't worry, after 2 weeks, you will still have access. All right, my friends, we have 5 minutes left. So I am going to pause the questions and I'm going to show you the last little piece down here, which I've called my water quality folder. My example here is of an organization that wants to clean up their local beach. And over the past couple of years, they've gone down and they've taken samples once a month to see how things are progressing. And you can see that the FIB is decreasing, right? The first sample was in 2021, and as it goes along, things generally get smaller and smaller. So we can see we're doing a pretty good job. But I think even more compelling than that would be to say not just we're getting better, we're beating our goals, but we're actually better than the others. And I wouldn't want to make you think that it's a competition in the nonprofit sector, right? We're all working together ultimately. But what I've done is I've gone online and I found some data. I used my home country of New Zealand, where the government provides public information about water quality in our area. So let's say we live over here on the west coast of the South Island of New Zealand. We can see all the different places where the government is tracking the water quality. Every river, every lake, and so on. And every point shows how much data we have on each of these. I downloaded this in 2 minutes as an Excel. I uploaded it in 2 minutes more, and it needed a few little tweaks just for me to display it properly. I used a formula column to put the latitude and longitude together, and then it was automatically able to display that in a map. And then I used this dashboard to build a full comparison display. I added here a bit of plain text. Okay, it's probably needs to be made a bit bigger. It's not the prettiest, but I just wanted to show you that there's a lot of stuff you can do here to make a report really, graphic. It doesn't have to just be facts and figures, right? You can upload images, and certainly putting in labels like this is not a problem. And now we can see the total pollution per site. Now I want to tell a story. So I've colored our site yellow, and every other site has the same color, blue. So ours really pops out. And you can see that, compared to how other sites are doing, we're certainly among the lowest ones. Look at the average across all the sites, pretty similar situation. But this, I think, is maybe the most compelling of all. This shows all of the sites across all time. I've put them all in gray, and our one I've put in green so that it really pops. And I think here you can see just where we are against the others. Before I said that we want to be working on telling a story. And there's definitely some improvements that could be made to this graph. For example, here you see a lot of them trail down to 0 in 2025, even some in 24, 23. It's because there's no data here. So what we might want to do is remove in the filter section here, remove any results which are empty. And then we wouldn't see everything trailing off, making it look like everyone's done as good a job as we've done. Maybe you also want to remove some of the cluster down here so that it's a bit easier to see, right? There's lots of things we could do here to help improve our story, to improve our narrative, again, without changing the actual numbers. We're not going to change the data. We just want to frame it in a way that tells the story we're trying to tell. And I'm sure, almost positive, that your organization doesn't clean up beaches on the west coast of the South Island of New Zealand. But I'm also sure that no matter what you do, there will be some kind of publicly available data or some kind of industry standard that you can access. And whether that is, yeah, the amount of educational success in grade 5 math, or the reincarceration rate of former drug addicts in the county of wherever, that information will be something that you can put into Monday, and showing that you've done better than all the others, I think will be a really compelling way to show your impact. And this, to me, is that cherry on top. We started way back with a basic task management board where we saw, how we can show how we've progressed with our statuses. We showed in the fundraising gala, for example, how we're doing. But we also looked at it against the mean. We also looked at it against our own goals. And I think if you can master all of this, you're going to be in a really, really good position. So this session, I hope, has shown you some of the things that are possible on Monday.com. Hope it's inspired you to create that free account and join our free nonprofit program, play around with the system, and of course, showed you where you can find extra resources and further help down the line. So my friends, with that, I want to say thank you all again for joining. Thanks again to Aretha and the folks from TechSoup for hosting us. We love working with you all. And who knows, maybe see you again on a future session. Stay safe, everyone. Bye-bye.